pressure is one of those things that we all need to manage. Now, that's kind of a stupid and boring statement, but it's true. So let me give you the first example of where I really started really understanding pressure. And of course, that was in martial arts. My boxing coach taught me that because he was literally a pressure fighter. If you're not a boxer, you're not a fighter. A pressure fighter gets into your face, and he keeps right in there, and he's hitting you, and he's pushing you, he's in your face. He's literally trying to put pressure on you because the pressure is there to break you down. And I don't know if he said it or heard it somewhere else, but pressure can beat skill. So if you have somebody who's more skilled than you, you can apply pressure on them, mental, physical pressure if possible, mental pressure, to break down their skills, because pressure will break skill. So in business, you're going to have to get used to pressure. Pressure is such an important part of business. Being able to handle it, being able to, on occasion, to exert it, but managing pressure is a huge part of it. And that's why you'll hear certain entrepreneurs say you have to really enjoy what you do, because when the pressure comes, inevitably the pressure will come in business, you're going to have to, you have to really like it to want to deal with that pressure, unless you're naturally good at managing pressure. And I remember in one martial arts style I did, it was kind of the teacher called it, they called it Catch Kembo. It was not the Catch Kembo that you typically see. It was more, it was some weird hybrid. This guy who taught my teacher, who's now dead, he was an enforcer and he was shot. But anyway, he just called it Catch Kembo, but his stuff was very different. It's kind of a white crane derivative. It was very street oriented because, like I said, this teacher was an enforcer. So it was pretty rough and tumble, lots of sparring, hitting each other. One of the things we did is we learned to handle pain. It was a big part of it, to be able to not flinch and not be afraid of pain. So we'd sit there, or you get into a horse position, and then people would wail on you, boom, 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 boom. And you'd have to learn to absorb and not flinch. And I was not totally into that because, you know, I figured you should learn to get away from the punches and get away from the kicks. But like, to give you an idea, to pass my third belt, everybody got to kick me or punch me in the gut as hard as they could. And I had to stand up and take it if I wanted to pass, even after doing all the exam and all the silly tests and stuff. And I actually went out and I had to barf once because I got hit so hard. But, you know, what that does, though, is that when you learn to take a beating like that, mentally you become super tough. And then when you get into a street fight, somebody hits you and you're like, what, that's it? That's all you got? You know, because you're used to getting hit by guys who are training hard to learn how to hit people. So some guy on the street goes, and you're like, that's it? I pay to get hit harder than this. So their pressure on you is nothing. And so learning and pressure training is much more of a mental thing than anything else. So you have to understand when you get into business that pressure is a big part of it. You have to learn to cope with it. And you may want to look up some exercise. You can start preparing yourself in terms of dealing with pressure. And you may want to look up some exercises that can help you with that. It could be mental, it could be physical exercises, whatnot. But physical exercise, where you're straining yourself and stressing yourself and your discipline, can help you with that. It teaches your mind, your emotional self, if you will, to not give in, not to control you with pressure. Because a lot of it, again, is mental. And sometimes to deal with pressure, besides training yourself physically to deal with that, you may have a system in place. So for instance, today was one of these days where I really didn't feel like working too much. So what I do is I have a basic rule that I've had for a long time now, a couple of decades. If you don't feel like working, at least get a little bit done. At least do something. Like, you know, if you have 2 hours of work to do and you don't feel like doing anything, do at least say, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. At least you do something to push it forward a bit. And you may end up only doing 5 minutes, but at least you got a little bit ahead. Or sometimes when I'm getting ready to plan out a new course, because I'm working on the courses now, I don't feel like recording that day. What I do is as I further prep for that course, I may put down some more notes. I may prepare the editing software so it's open, everything's configured, something to push it forward. And that's where you use a system, you have a protocol that you must adhere to no matter what. And I got that, again, like so many other things in my life, I got that from boxing. Whereas in boxing, you have a buzzer. When we train, you start training, we would have a buzzer. And the way it would work was that when the buzzer, I think it was 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off. And it'd be whether you'd be doing shadow boxing, skipping rope, heavy bag work, sparring in the ring, pad work, whatever. And what my coach would emphasize is that when the buzzer says you train, no matter what, you train. And you don't stop early, and you don't continue. If you're feeling really good and the buzzer goes off, I don't need to take this break, you take the break. Even if you don't need to, you take the break. And what this does is that it really disciplines you that when it's time to work, you work no matter what, and when it's rest time, you rest. And you're training your mind, you're training your brain to react in that way too. So if you put into place a system or a protocol where on the days you don't feel like working, that you have to do at least some bare minimum, right? Like I have like emails come in like crazy. It's like I said, I'm going to answer 4 emails today. It's like I'm going to get those done. I'm going to prep this. I'm going to prep that. So I may only do a little bit of work, but at least I push the project forward. Anyway, that's my tip for today. Pressure. You have to learn to understand it. You have to learn to manage it. And also, yeah, pressure can be used in business negotiations as well. It will be used on you. But I'll have to leave that to another video. Bye-bye.